What's up, guys? Farzy Vasugian here with you on a Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for the Red Friday live chat, AFC Championship Edition. And of course, we are less than 2 days away, just a little under 48 hours away from kickoff here. It's going by slow. It's what happens when you're in this part of the season. Time just goes very, very slow, but we are getting there, and this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a big one. I think a lot of people are excited, anxious, nervous. Even if you're not a Chiefs or a Bills fan, I think everyone's just. I think a lot of people are just nervous because a lot of people really want to see Josh Allen and the Bills get over the hump, and then there are a lot of people that want to see the Chiefs fall and lose. So I'm just looking at this game here, and Andy Reid said it pretty well today. His last message to the team, and they're going to go through walkthroughs tomorrow, so it'll be. I mean, there will be another one, but his message is essentially that just play the game and be yourselves. Keep it pretty simple. And I can certainly understand that kind of approach. But I think this is just one of those games where it's like, this is a year where a lot of history is being made. The final four teams we're seeing, the Bills, Chiefs, Commanders, and Eagles, all four of them coming into this game have had no turnovers in the playoffs. Now, the Chiefs only played one game, but all the other teams have played 2 games. So 7 combined playoff games among these 4 teams, and none of them have committed a single turnover this postseason. That's an NFL record for these final 4 teams. And I think I just kind of look at that, and this is one of those games where, okay, tells you that the team that makes the fewest mistakes will certainly come away victorious. I think that's one of the big factors in this one. I've talked all week about Josh Allen and his scrambling. The Chiefs need to contain him. That's another one right there. And then the third down battle. Buffalo's really good on third down. Chiefs are very good on third down. As far as third down defense, that is kind of an under the radar weakness of the Buffalo Bills. It just doesn't get talked about a whole lot by a lot of people out there. So those are just some of the things that I'm looking at going into Sunday's game. You guys know what this is. This is the Red Friday live chat. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever is on your mind, I want to hear it. This is your last chance to get it all out to me before the AFC Championship game. And I want you guys to ask whatever is on your mind. Drop it below, and we will discuss it. I do want to go over the injury report first. This has been a really good week for Kansas City. No injuries to report. The worst thing that happened was we found out that McCole Hardman was not going to come back for the remainder of the postseason. If that is the worst news you got, and you're the Chiefs coming into the AFC Championship game, boy, things are going really well for Kansas City. Meanwhile, on the Buffalo side of things, Buffalo has quite a long injury report, and they have already ruled out Taylor Rapp, the safety for the Bills, who got an interception last week against Lamar Jackson. He's been dealing with a back and a hip injury, could not practice at all this week. The Christian Benford one, he's been limited in practice with a concussion, and then he was excused from Friday's practice due to a personal matter. We'll leave that aside because that's not our place to speak. But they did decide to put him as questionable. Not being able to practice Friday, and then being limited earlier in the week. I would imagine Christian Benford plays. It is pertinent that he does play because they're already down Taylor Rapp. The secondary for Buffalo, not necessarily the best, and they're already down a player. So I think if you're Kansas City, this is just one of those things where, look, injuries are part of the game, unfortunately, and you just got to take advantage of that. So Kansas City is going to be going into this game with a bit of an advantage when it comes to having their team essentially at full strength here, at least with the 53-man roster. The only player you don't have is Rashee Rice. If we can switch over here, and again, these are PFF grades, so take it for what it's worth to you. And by the way, for those of you who are coming in now, appreciate you guys joining us tonight for the Red Friday live chat. Please, this is the Q&A. Ask whatever is on your mind, any questions, comments, anything you want to get off your chest to me. This is your last time to do it before the game begins. So when you look at there we go. When you look at the Buffalo Bills, and that is their defense right there, courtesy of PFF. And again, the grades you see there, those are subjective. Nothing to get all worked up or go crazy about. Like the DeMar Hamlin one, the 59.7 grade. I don't agree with that. I think it should be a little higher here. But Christian Benford, one of the underrated corners for the Buffalo Bills. So if they don't have him, that would certainly be a massive blow to Buffalo's defense. They're already down Taylor Rapp, and filling in for him is going to be Cole Bishop. So that's going to be the replacement. Russell Douglas, opposite of Benford, not a very good cover corner. Excuse me. When you look at their defensive line up front, I like who they have, and Russo at Oliver, AJ Epinesa. Those are some good defensive linemen. And I remember they were all available last year, and there were some concerns about their availability going into that divisional round game between the Chiefs and the Bills. And their defensive line was at full strength, and their defensive line has come through for them at times here. But when you look at that secondary, that is what really concerns me from Buffalo's standpoint. If Christian Benford is not available, oh boy. You thought the Texans struggled with Travis Kelce last week. This could be a really different game, and we might have a very different type of discussion about the offense if Christian Benford's not out there. It is very important for Benford to be out there. You look at guys like Ed Oliver and Greg Russo. Those guys are going to have big games if Benford's out. That defensive line up front is going to have to play its best game of the season if Benford's not there. Because when you just look at Buffalo's defense in general, not terrible, but also not great, not anything to be afraid of. 17th in total defense, 20th against the pass. They've done well not allowing quarterbacks to light it up in this postseason. But man, they're 28th in red zone, third down defense. Those are just not the greatest numbers going into a game against Kansas City. And I know Kansas City's offense, they have not necessarily done anything to light up the scoreboard, but you just cannot count out Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense in the postseason. You just can't. So those are some big takeaways from the injury report going into the AFC Championship game. Like I said, they had a lot of players on that injury report this week, but nothing too crazy. They have Valen Spector from IR. He is questionable, but it's a player on IR. Maybe he plays, and maybe he plays several snaps, but we'll see what they want to do there with Matt Milano dealing his injury. Taron Johnson went from full participation to limited and then went back to full. So it appears he'll be okay. But boy, that's a long list of injuries there. I think the hope for Buffalo is that none of these guys re-aggravate any of the injuries they're dealing with, because it is a very long list. Chiefs have 4 players on there, and you got 2 ankles and a shoulder. Mahomes, one of the ankle injuries there, but he's been on that injury report for quite some time, so it's nothing to be concerned about. Before I get to your guys' questions, I do want to talk about Pete Carroll now joining the AFC West. Boy, you have a gauntlet of coaches in the AFC West. You have Andy Reid, who's got 3 Super Bowl wins, possibly 4. Then you have Pete Carroll, who's won multiple national championships in college football, came very close to be the first football coach to win multiple college football championships and NFL championship, Super Bowl essentially, was 1 yard away from making that happen. But nonetheless, Pete Carroll, I've always been a huge fan of Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, the running back for Marshawn Lynch. That group of guys in Seattle, I've always liked that dynasty there, and then the Legion of Boom. What was there not to like about that Seattle football team? And that Seattle football team did a really good job with their drafts. Cam Chancellor was another guy they added in there. I mentioned Bruce Sherman. So many guys in later rounds that they brought in and they were able to succeed with. So that was a hell of a group there. I don't want to call it a dynasty because they only won one Super Bowl. Yes, they again came 1 yard away, making it back-to-back 2 years in a row. But didn't happen, unfortunately. Still a really good run. Some NFL runs like Seattle's kind of do remind me of MMA, where there might be a fighter in the UFC that is at an all-time high with a championship around their shoulder or waist, but sometimes that kind of success does not last very long, and the downfall happens pretty fast and pretty hard too. So when you look at the Seahawks, I mean, things just kind of just went down after that loss to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I mean, Russell Wilson just hasn't necessarily been the same. Had a little bit of success with the Steelers this year, but the Steelers just went into the playoffs on a decline, and you also saw how that playoff game went. So that is that's just the way things have gone in Seattle. I've always been a big fan of Pete Carroll. By the way, a lot of people don't realize this. Pete Carroll is 74 years old. That dude does not look like he is over the age of 60. Seriously, I don't know what vitamins this guy takes, or by the way, I said 74, I meant 73. He'll be 74 in September. But I mean, I don't know what this guy does health-wise to keep himself in shape the way he does. At 73 years old, dude, if I ever reach 73 years old, I hope I look as good as Pete Carroll does. That is, I mean, that dude's taking good care of himself over the years. And I always just think of Dick Vermeil because he was the last Chiefs head coach to retire while a member of the Chiefs, and he did that at the age of 69. So I always think of that number 69, 70 as when coaches usually step away from the game. I know Belichick is still coaching out there, which just shocks me. You know, you're in your 70s and now you're working with college kids. I just don't know what kind of patience he would have for a bunch of 18-year-olds. And you have Pete Carroll, who, you know, was away from the game for a little bit, but now is back in the AFC West. Is there a chance he brings Russell Wilson with him? I think there's some speculation Russell Wilson could return to the AFC West. That would be something for the Raiders. I'll say that it's a great hire for the Raiders. It really is. Now, at his age, and it's reportedly a 3-year contract, realistically, what is the expectation there? Because I'll just say this now. I was told by Raiders fans a year ago this time that Antonio Pierce was supposedly the savior of that franchise. Didn't even last a full 365 days as the head coach of the Raiders. The Raiders just keep recycling through head coaches over and over again. I mean, it's been going on since their Super Bowl loss to the Bucs. So do I think this is a step in the right direction for the Raiders? I do, yes. But it's also one of those things where I'm like, I'll see it when I believe it. I mean, a couple of years ago, they had a great roster on paper with Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, the running back who's with the Packers right now, and Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs is who I was thinking of. I mean, that's a pretty damn good group of offensive players there, whether you're quarterback, tight end, receiver, and running back there. But it just didn't work. Didn't even come close to working. All those blown leads they had in the second half, it just never worked to the plan that they had going into. And that was a domino effect of getting Tyreek Hill out of the Chiefs and the AFC West. So again, I want to just be clear. This is a good hire for the Raiders. It is. It absolutely is. They needed it. They needed someone like this. Ben Johnson, look, when you have a rookie head coach, and I understand we see a lot of these, but when you have a rookie head coach going to a franchise that has done nothing but lose a lot for 2 decades, 22 years now, I just don't know, like, how do you expect a rookie head coach to really turn things around? I mean, they brought in a veteran head coach a few years ago, and things were moving in the right direction for a little bit for the Raiders there with Gruden. But unfortunately, there were some matters that took place, and the Raiders felt the need that, they had to just move away from him. But they had a veteran head coach gradually putting them in the right direction. This is what they're going through again. They're hoping that they can go back to that phase of things and getting back to how Raiders football once used to be. One of the more respected football teams at one point. So they still have a lot of work to do with the roster. That needs to be made clear. So I've always been a big fan of Pete Carroll. Hate that it's the Raiders, but it is a very good hire for the Raiders nonetheless. They do have a lot to figure out moving forward. Okay, that's really all I have to say. As far as thoughts on the game, I mean, I've kind of gotten that out there as the week went on. We did a lot of live streams, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about the game as we go on. So I'll get to your questions right about now. All right. Boy, a lot of comments already. Okay. Let's try to move it like a machine gun here. Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. Patriots went through that for 18 years. Yeah, I saw that. Who was it? Mark Schlereth, who called Arrowhead Allenhead. By the way, I didn't realize this. I've never seen Catching Kelsey, but I guess Mark Schlereth's daughter was on there vying for Travis Kelce's heart. By the way, that show was essentially The Bachelor, I believe. I've seen that once, and once was enough. I don't understand the infatuation people have with that show, but neither here nor there. I think Schlereth is just upset because that clip, I guess, was going viral this week. Okay. I mean, we all know what happened when people started the Burrowhead crap a few years ago. So, yeah, have fun with that. You're sad all the winter weather is gone here in South Texas. Teresa, no, you should be doing backflips. I just can't deal with the cold. I cannot deal with the cold. It is expected to be Joe Thuney. Andy Reid said, there's no final answer on that, but it is expected to be Joe Thuney. And by the way, appreciate everyone who tuned in to KCTV5 this morning there. Got to hang out with Shane Kanicki and Kerrigan Arnold. I did a Zoom interview with Kerrigan back in September. They wanted to feature the Man Cave, which is pretty cool. And Chris Rao, who I met at a convention, he has some great artwork that I have in the Man Cave. I have Super Bowls 54, 57, and 58. I'm losing track of the number of Super Bowls, but I have a spot on the wall for that Super Bowl 59 championship there. So hopefully I get to meet him again and get some artwork from him. But I had a great time with those guys over at KCTV5 today. Got to meet them in person. I'd never been to KCTV5's studio before. I've been to Channel 41. I don't think I've been to 9 or 4. I always like going to these places just to kind of see. Mark, I was talking to Mark. You guys know Mark. He's from KCMO Radio. He's done a lot of podcasts and live streams with us here. Mark's at KCMO Radio, and he told me he'd be willing to give me a tour of the station there. So I gotta take him up on that sometime. I heard it's kind of like Entercom, which is now Odyssey, which is where 610 is, or whatever that station is called now. When you just like walk through, I mean, there are just tons and tons of radio stations. And Odyssey is a big company, so that's expected in some markets like Kansas City. But there are some places where you only see just one or maybe 2, 3 at the most stations in one building. Whereas I think Cumulus, they have a bunch of their stations in the same building there. So I always like seeing those kinds of places. So it's always fun to see. Is this it for McDermott if the Bills lose? No, I don't. If they lost in the divisional round, I would have said yes. If you made it this far, can you fire him for not beating the Chiefs? Look, I said in the past that McDermott getting fired after a postseason loss would not be out of the question. But I think this is the best season Buffalo's had. Now, how much of it has to do with Joe Brady? And, if Joe Brady were to ever move on, what would Buffalo's offense look like without him? Because Josh Allen played much better with Joe Brady. Remember, Buffalo was kind of in a weird situation last year where they were below 500 and they did not look like a good football team. And then they went on a surge, ended by Kansas City, of course, but still went on a surge there and got the Buffalo Bills back. I was a little worried McDermott would have been fired last year, but not the case. Kind of like Doc Rivers, because didn't he get fired after losing in the same spot in the postseason 2, 3, or 4 years in a row? So something like that. So I kind of compared McDermott's potential exit to Doc Rivers at one point. I don't think that's happening. They could lose this game 41-0, which is not happening, and McDermott would not lose his job. It just wouldn't. This is the best season Buffalo's had. I think if you're a Buffalo fan, how much more patient can you really be here? I do think Kansas City, regardless of what happens to Kansas City this year, I think Kansas City's hot run could come to an end and they'll take a little bit of a break, kind of like the Patriots, how, they had a little bit of a hiatus with Super Bowl appearances for, I think, 4 or 5 years. Didn't win a championship for 10 years in between the third and fourth Super Bowl. So I think the Chiefs are going to go through something like that at the very least next year. If I had to bet on it, I don't think the Chiefs are going to the AFC Championship game next year. So that would be a time for a team like the Bills or the Bengals or the Ravens to be like, well, if it's not Mahomes, it's got to be one of us. So because whenever Brady did not win a Super Bowl, who won a Super Bowl? You saw Peyton Manning. One of the very few times he was able to win a Super Bowl, was able to do so once with the Broncos and once with the Colts. Another player who took advantage of Brady not being able to reach a championship would be Ben Roethlisberger and a couple other guys here and there. You didn't see a lot of people in the AFC win the Super Bowl the years Brady was there, because at the end of the day, how many times did they go to a Super Bowl with Brady? 9 times out of 18? Yeah. I mean, it was very rare for other teams to be able to reach a Super Bowl while Tom Brady was with the Patriots. Yeah, he's not out yet. Has a chance to play. I think he will. But we'll find out. There might be an update tomorrow. Maybe something comes out during pregame on Sunday. He might try to play, and if he's not feeling 100%, then I don't know. Maybe he gets pulled from the game. You know what I will say is there are a lot of concussion symptoms, and I'm not saying this specifically with Benford. I'm just saying in general what I've noticed over the years. I have noticed that a lot of concussion symptoms magically disappear during the playoffs. You guys be the judge on that. Would you have started DJ at left tackle for this game and moved Tooney? No. Every drive matters. Every drive matters. DJ Humphries, I was all in on DJ Humphries coming in, but he has not looked good. He didn't look good in that Chargers game, and then in the Broncos game against a good defensive line, he did not look very good in that game either. So, I'd love to see DJ Humphries get a full offseason with the Chiefs. Maybe he could be the solution at left tackle. I don't know. It would certainly prevent them from having to use that draft pick on a left tackle, and maybe they can focus on another part of the offensive line if Trey Smith doesn't come back, or maybe on the defense. Maybe something to explore this upcoming offseason. I just don't. I kind of what I was saying. I just don't think they feel confident with him right now because he hasn't looked good in the 2 games he's played in. Please, Chiefs, play the Imperial March after Mr. Brightside. The Bills have been celebrating. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I am not. I cannot handle the cold. And that, I mean, that would not be a fun experience for me. Anyone who's attending sporting events in the cold weather, props to you, because I can't do that. I just can't. Only thing Pete's gonna do is on the goal line with the biggest game in hand is. Well, it wasn't him, wasn't it? Bavell who called that. I remember the joke online at the time is that if you play Madden, because I guess you can ask Madden for your play calls. If you were to ask Bavell anytime you had the ball at the 1, then you would pass it. Listen, there's nothing wrong with passing at the 1 yard line. Like if it's first, here's one thing is I'm always surprised in the NFL. If a team has it, like if it's first and goal from the 1 or the 2, a lot of teams do not go for the play action. Like have that bunch formation, go for the play action and throw the ball to the end zone. I mean, defenses bite almost every single time. We don't see it often because they don't try it often. It's just one of the coaching criticisms I've always had. If that is how this game ends, a lot of people are going to threaten to quit watching football. They won't, but they'll threaten to quit. By the way, there was a question earlier that I saw but skipped through it, and I apologize who that was from. Somebody was asking if I think this could be a big game for Pacheco. I think this would be a bigger game for Kareem Hunt. I just feel like he hasn't had a big workload in quite some time, and I think they're saving it for a game like this. So, yeah, Thomas, I do agree with you. I do think he's going to eat in this one. I think this is going to be a big Kareem Hunt game. Yeah, and people talked about the situation in Oakland or Vegas wasn't really a good situation for him, and then he moves on and still isn't doing well. Like Derek Carr is just not a good quarterback. I've never understood Raiders fans need to defend that guy so much. Like that guy is literally mediocrity. He got 9 seasons of opportunities, and he went through all of these different head coaches. None of those head coaches could figure it out with Derek Carr. I mean, come on. Like, how many coaches can seriously win with Derek Carr? Let's be honest here. Like, I think if you gave Gruden a better quarterback, they would have gotten more ahead of schedule or something. I don't know. I've just never really seen the obsession Raiders fans have with the guy. And Josh DeBow, who does a great job covering the Raiders for the AP, he always gets a lot of pushback still to this day from Raiders fans about Derek Carr. Like, why? He's literally been off your team for a couple of years and you guys still defend him. Makes no sense. But Josh DeBow put out there and how quarterbacks that have gotten 9 seasons of opportunities as a starter, I mean, they all thrive. Derek Carr had 9 seasons and didn't. He struggled immensely. I thought Derek Carr played great in 2016. I thought he should have been the MVP that year. But he got injured in week 15, I think. That was back when they had 17 weeks in a season, 15 or 16. And that just really changed everything for the Raiders going into the playoffs that year. But yeah, I mean, the success he had was not very. 2015 and 2016 were good years for Derek Carr, but that was it. That was really it. Yeah, Omenihu is another player. And look, both sides had players that were not available for this game. Omenihu was one of them that was not available. And I think he's going to be very important. Having Jalen Watson back is certainly going to be helpful. He's done a good job replacing L'Jarius Sneed this season. He really has. So what is Kansas City's defense going to look like? Because when you look at Buffalo's receiving corp, they're not really that great. I mean, Khalil Shakir, I would say, is a good, solid receiver. Keon Coleman had a solid rookie season. Amari Cooper, I mean, in his time, with the Bills coming from Cleveland hasn't done well. Maybe with a full offseason, he does much better. I don't know. But there's nothing crazy good about Amari Cooper's season with the Bills so far. Curtis Samuel played well against the Chiefs. Would that have been a different game if Jalen Watson was there covering him? Maybe. Matt Collins, not really the scariest group of wide receivers there. And I know the Chiefs gave up 30 in that one for the first time in a long time they've allowed 30. But I think that was due to the offense not being able to move the ball or get a first down in the third quarter. And the defense was gassed out at that point. So I like that Omenihu and Watson are back. I think those are going to be two massive difference makers. The only thing that'll help the Raiders is if they get rid of their owner. Maybe. Look, I don't know how you fix the Raiders. Even where they had a little bit of success, it just went back. They just went back to being the joke of the NFL as they've been for 2 decades. So I don't know. I know a lot of people wanted to move on from Al Davis, and now you're here with Mark Davis, and it really doesn't feel much different. Here's the problem with today's sports world. I keep calling this era of the sports world the social media era, where, let's be honest, front offices, they're aware much more today than they were 20 years ago about what the fans have to say, what people have to say in public. Back then, if you really wanted to know what fans had to say, you just had to turn on local talk radio whenever they took phone calls. Some radio shows don't like to take a lot of phone calls. Some do. But you can just look at social media, and fans will tag the social media accounts or comment on their page and let them know how they really feel. So the front office, I'm not that I think Mark Davis opens up Facebook and reads the Raiders comment page, but he's aware. The PR people today, they let their owners, their general managers know today what's being said out there. My whole point is we are in this social media era where everyone wants to win now. That requirement for instant gratification is bigger than it's ever been before. And I think the owners feel that pressure. And because the Raiders keep going through this cycle of head coaches over and over again, it's well, how do you expect to win when you're not even going to give Antonio Pierce a year? Do I think Antonio Pierce was really going to be the savior? No. Do I think he deserved more than a year? Yes. Is a 73-year-old really your solution? I guess if that 73-year-old is Pete Carroll, sure. But there's still a lot of work to be done. I would be willing to put money down that Pete Carroll will try. I don't know if he will, but will try very hard to bring in Russell Wilson. Because I think Mark Davis has said, look, we've been bad for a long time. We really need to get going in a very competitive division. Think of who your coaches are. Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh. Guys who have won championships in the NFL and or college football. The Raiders, they're going to be in last place for a long time if they don't figure out how to compete. A lot of people have talked about this one. I agree with you, Michael, and I pointed this out earlier in the week. I just feel like that's what's got to happen in order for the Chiefs to come away with a win. Allen doesn't get sacked much. You got to bring him down in this one. Force these third and long situations here if you're Kansas City. I cannot put it on my page because I do not have the copyright. If I see it out there, I will share it for you guys to see. I do know my segment with them had a lot of views compared to some of their other videos that they posted. So I would imagine they would like to put that up there. For those that didn't see it. So basically I got to talk with the hosts at the beginning of the segment, the first segment of the show. And then they wanted me to stick around and we created a bingo card. We just kind of BS as the day went on. I keep in mind, it's not a news show. It's more of a laid back casual show. And then we played some games in the end, like tailgate games, where everyone just cheated and no one played by the rules. Because they had a couple of chefs in there as guests as well. So we just did nothing but literally have fun. um, oh yeah, it's been there for a while. I love Friday the 13th. I love it. My goal is to go to other conventions and find other Friday the 13th actors who have played Jason and get assigned masks. That is my goal in life. Is to get that, get as many as I can. By the way, one of the things that KCTV5 did today on my KC Live is they brought in the most adorable puppy ever, from I think from one of the adoption shelters. They brought him in. One of the, like, the dog never barked once. One of the most calm dogs ever. Everyone was in love with the dog. And we did like a little puppy bowl thing where the dog would choose which bowl to pick out of, and whichever bowl they picked is who was going to win the AFC Championship game. And the dog, they brought the bowls closer because the dog was like really, really nervous and shy. The dog, the people on the in front of the camera, they were trying to lead him to the bowls because he was shy. Eventually, he picked one of the bowls and he picked the Chiefs. And I posted that. My God, the comments are insane. People are really in their feelings over a dog's pick for the AFC Championship. Like, if you are really all worked up over a dog picking who's going to win the AFC Championship game, you need to go outside. Just go outside. And if you're one of those people watching this live stream right now, turn this off and go outside, please. I mean, you're not wrong, Teresa. Chris Jones said the same thing. Chris Jones was asked why the defense was so good last year. And I mean, I'm laughing, but it's true. Chris Jones said, well, Spags is living that life where, you know, there's a happy wife, happy life. Because his wife, I guess they had a long distance marriage where Spags was here in KC, and I don't know where his wife was, but his wife moved to Kansas City last year. And he said Spags was much happier during the season. So yeah, you're not wrong about that at all. I think a lot of people like underestimate just that part of things sometimes. Oh, of course they are. I mean, come on. The people did that. I was with the Patriots. The crazy thing is, like, everyone thought the refs were in the league were helping the Patriots. I'm like, wait a minute. If the league was really helping the Patriots, would they have suspended Tom Brady? Would they have gone after the Patriots as hard as they did for Deflategate and Spygate? I mean, come on. And didn't they get caught filming the Bengals at the time when the Bengals were like the worst team in the NFL? When they that got them the number one pick to get Burrow. Like, why are you filming the Bengals, like the worst team in the NFL at the time? That made no sense. But the point I'm trying to make here is I never believed in the league helping the Patriots. Because here's a crazy thing: Patriots fans felt like the league was always against them. I mean, honestly, a lot of Chiefs fans feel like the league is against them. I mean, I guess that narrative gets a lot of pushback because of the refs, but what do you see now? You see a dynasty where a fan base, and I love y'all, I really do, but a lot of you guys do go out there and say on social media that the league is against the Chiefs, and that every other fan base thinks the complete opposite. So I don't know. I know we're talking Sunday, but off the beaten path, it's so strange that no one has hired Steve Spagnuolo as the head coach. He's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Susan. Yeah, that's the other thing too with Carroll going to the Raiders. That was the only other team that had interest in Spags. Now let me check NFL head coach openings. What are the head coaching vacancies right now? Only 2 left. Who are those 2? The Saints, I think, is one of them. The Saints and the Cowboys. Okay. The Cowboys. I don't know why that's funny, but it just is. Uh, okay, I guess I know why it's funny, but yeah, I mean, I don't think Spags would go to any of those teams. It could change. It really could. The Pete Carroll one kind of came out of nowhere. The Leon Cohn one with the Jags, that one was way out of left field. So, never say never. Look, there are a lot of theories as to why Chiefs assistants don't get hired for head coaching jobs. I mean, Eric Bieniemy has just been going through all of these interviews and not getting a single job. Matt Nagy, I mean, he got a job before, but the Chiefs were one and done in the playoffs at the time. So Nagy didn't have to wait very long to leave the Chiefs. But we've seen teams wait. I remember the Colts were waiting on Josh McDaniels' season to be over with the Patriots. They ended up picking the Eagles offensive coordinator, Frank Reich. I remember when the Chiefs beat the Eagles on the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Gannon and Steichen got hired. Steichen over Bieniemy. That's who the Colts were looking at. So I don't know. I don't know why Spags is not getting hired. Maybe behind closed doors in league offices. Maybe it's just known that Spags does not want to be a head coach. I don't know. I'm just throwing at a dartboard here. We're the only team not on the East Coast. Oh, I did not know that. That's a good observation. Okay, let's see. This is a really good comment from Lori. I'm the same way. Like next year, let's say the Chiefs three-peat, and I think they will. But let's say the Chiefs have like a really heartbreaking loss in a game or two next year. Let's just say the Chiefs lose any game. I'll just be like, oh, shit, they lost. But then like 10 seconds later, I'll be like, I don't care. The Chiefs three-peated. I mean, I know that sounds bush league, and I know Mahomes, Reed, whoever else is on this team next year, I know they're certainly not going to have that mentality, especially any rookies and free agents that come to Kansas City. They sure as hell will not have that mentality. But a part of me is like not going to care what happens for a couple of years. I mean, come on, we can enjoy a little bit of a break, can't we? Just a little bit, not too long of a break. I mean, listen, we all know this is not going to last forever. Could end this weekend, could end next year. Hopefully the three-peat happens, because that is the goal right now, for sure. Because I do believe that whatever happens this year, I think there's going to be a lot of turnover, and I don't think the Chiefs will be at this point this time next year. Oh, yeah. They've certainly been cursed. And, I like that that they were able to have some success in the 90s with Levy. And not the most recent podcast I did with Duron Cherry, but the podcast before, the first time Duron Cherry was on the podcast. We talked a lot about Marv Levy because he's the reason why Duron Cherry became a Chief. I've always liked Marv Levy. I mean, I wasn't born at the time when he was coaching Kansas City, but I wish that had worked out. I think he's one of the best coaches in NFL history. I'm glad he was able to find some success in Buffalo. Just unfortunate he never got the one Super Bowl there. Going 4 years in a row. I remember NFL Network did like I don't know if they still do these kinds of lists where they do like top 10 offenses ever or top 10 most snake-bitten franchises. For the snake-bitten franchises one, I'm sure Buffalo's on that list. I would imagine Minnesota, one of the most winning teams in the NFL, and they're 0-4 in Super Bowls. And then the Chiefs, with their bad luck in the postseason and the losses of some really, really good football players while they were still in the middle of their careers. So the Chiefs were on that list. Yeah. Walmart needs to have a TV sale for Bills fans. That and table sales, because there are going to be a lot of broken tables. Bring in Willie Roaf. Man, I was really sad when Willie Roaf retired and did not come back. He had a quiet retirement. Yeah, that offensive line, you're never going to replicate that offensive line. The interior offensive line is very similar, but my God, that That offensive line was quite a unit. Willie Roaf, baby. How can we convince the Bills to leave Kelsey as wide open in the middle of the field as the Texans did? I mean, with their secondary banged up for a little bit now, could be worse, though I don't anticipate it. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people make a big deal about Hopkins and Hollywood not getting a catch, and I think that needs to change, but I think part of it is maybe the quarterbacks, maybe the defense in general focus a lot more on those guys than they did Kelsey. So if the Bills do the exact same thing and you don't have a catch to Hollywood or Hopkins, okay, it's not ideal, but if they keep leaving Kelsey open, keep hitting him, because if they're going to leave him wide open, sure, I suppose that's one way of going about it. Buffalo's not going to do that, though. No way. I would be shocked if it's anything like that. I do think the Chiefs will find a way to get players open. I just don't think it's going to be Kelsey over and over again. I don't know. I think it's going to be Hunt who has the bigger game for the running back position. I've gone over that with it. I mean, it's a good question. Don't get me wrong. But that was asked already, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. You think they've got to take a left tackle? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I mean, listen, if you have a really good running back like Kareem Hunt in short yardage situations, I don't think you have to call it. But if your running back's not one of the best, I mean, it's ultimately up to them. I think the Chiefs could pull it off. Don't get me wrong. Oh boy, I hope so. That would be so nice. And what might be one of the biggest games the Chiefs will ever play, because it just feels like, once again, Buffalo looks really good. They look good enough to finally get to a Super Bowl. We've heard that narrative before, so we'll see. If they do a fake punt and a flea flicker on the same play or on separate plays? On separate plays, I think maybe. The Broncos had a fake punt they pulled off against the Bills back when it was just a one-possession game. I'm sure Dave Tobe and his unit have made note of that. We haven't seen the Chiefs do a fake punt where Ariza has passed. They did it a couple of times with Townsend, not with Ariza. They did attempt a fake punt. And by the way, if I have it correctly, the Chiefs have only failed on fourth down twice this year. None of them were with the offense. One of them was a fake punt against the 49ers on 4th and 1, which I thought was a really bad play call. The second one was last week where Matt Ariza did the fake punt, but wasn't really trying to do anything and intentionally took a safety. So statistically, it counts as a 4th down attempt, but they weren't really attempting to do anything significant. They just wanted to take some time off the clock, give them 2 points, and kick off the ball from a spot where they would not give up good field position. So those are the 2 times the Chiefs failed on 4th down this year. And neither one Mahomes was on the field for, or anyone on the offense. You see the Raiders getting Sam Darnold? Maybe. I mean, the Raiders, look, they want to try anything and everything, I suppose. I mean, Aiden O'Connell's not it. He's sure as hell not it. Oh, he beat the Chiefs. Whoop-de-doo. Was that because of Aiden O'Connell? Hell no, it wasn't. It was because it was more self-inflicted on the Chiefs side of things. And don't get me wrong, if you're the Raiders, you take advantage of that, but that's just not a reason to keep somebody. Because isn't that why AP got the job? Because he beat the Chiefs? The Raiders beat the Chiefs? Okay, but it's not like the Raiders did anything. The Raiders didn't create anything. It was more Mahomes playing the worst 7 seconds of his life. Yeah, this is going to be a big one. Whoever makes the fewest mistakes, Jim, yeah, that could decide it. Reed's been saving a lot of players for this game and the Super Bowl. Yeah, look, Andy Reid's been around a long time. I mean, how many plays could you really be saving? You have a thick playbook. We keep seeing the Chiefs run the same play with Xavier Worthy over and over again, that reverse play. So maybe they mix it up. and do something that we've never seen before. This has got to be one of those games where you run some plays that have not been seen before and that have not been on film before. You would have to bring that playbook out for this one. And I'm sure Andy Reid has that. I can't get behind your comment, Bob, because what running backs have beat you this year if you're Kansas City? I mean, Joe Mixon had 81, 82 yards? That's the most you've given up to a running back. Now, your comment about Josh Allen, that is absolutely true. The Chiefs have not been very good in stopping quarterbacks. They've allowed quarterbacks to run free at times. The only 100-yard rusher this year against the Chiefs is Lamar Jackson. He's the only guy who's rushed for 100 yards on Kansas City. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that the running back thing, that's not too, like James Cook was held to 2.2 yards per carry against Kansas City. I don't think he's gonna do much in this one here. In the red zone, he's been very good, and he did that against the Chiefs, but that was really it. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still important to get some red zone stops if the Bills will get there for sure. If no one has said it yet, I can't believe the other three owners in the AFC West brought it to some big coaching talent just to lose to the Chiefs. The refs and the Chiefs, yeah. I mean, look, if you want to compete with the Chiefs, though, this is what you have to do. And again, no disrespect to Ben Johnson. I think he's going to be a good coach. But do you think Ben Johnson is going to find success as a rookie head coach for a team that's been a disaster for so long? Like, there would be a lot of pressure on him. And that could maybe put a dent on his coaching career in terms of trying to get other opportunities in the future for head coaching jobs. I mean, look, what head coach has gone to the Raiders and has found success elsewhere or has gotten opportunities elsewhere? I just don't think you've seen that. Yeah, that was, I mean, Jerick McKinnon was huge for Kansas City in those postseason games and also late in the regular season, a couple of seasons. Yeah. I hope so too. I mean, you brought them for a reason. This is their first ever AFC Championship game. Yeah, you know, a lot of you guys keep mentioning so many different players, all the running backs, Pacheco, Pirine, Hunt, Brown, Hollywood Brown, Hopkins, Kelsey, Gray. I mean, realistically, not all of these guys can have big games. Now, you know, not having a catch, I think is what you guys are trying to imply here. But yeah, Pirine for a couple of third down plays that he could maybe help convert on. Brown and Hopkins, like maybe Kelsey has another big game and Brown and Hopkins, they catch around 50 to 70 yards in Sunday's game, and that would be huge. It is going to take a whole team effort. Yeah, I agree with you guys, though. That same comment from a couple of comments ago. Yeah, 100%. I think the one that you have to study the most would be that Rams-Bills game. Rams scored 44 in that one. One of them was a blocked punt, but Matthew Stafford had his best game in terms of passing yards in the regular season against Buffalo. And again, there was a blocked punt there that went for a touchdown. So that was one less drive for the Rams in that game. Yeah, the vintage plays. I mean, we've seen that from time to time. Let's see what they pull out. I say use the corn dog play against the Bills because there's a chance you play the Eagles. The Eagles are going to be ready for the corn dog play, 1,000%. The Bills, probably not. So if there was ever a time to bring back the corn dog plays, it'd be this one. Yeah, he's had a very quiet postseason for sure. Keon Coleman's also had a very quiet postseason. It's really been the ground game that's been helping Buffalo. Because if you look at, and I have it right here, James Cook, he had 17 rushes for 67 yards against the Ravens. It's not great, but it's not bad either. He also had 15 more yards off 3 catches. And then against the Broncos, he ran for 120 yards off 23 carries, and he had a touchdown in that game. So it has been the ground game that has allowed Buffalo to move the chains. So that it's been that type of postseason for Buffalo's offense for sure. Uh, do you guys want to hear something funny? I asked Chat GPT because that's who you ask now these days for any information that you need. I asked Chat GPT for keys to the game for the Chiefs and the Bills. According to Chat GPT, Mahomes is going to have to get players involved like Kelsey and Kadarius Toney, and the Bills are going to have to get Stephon Diggs involved. If Kadarius Toney and Stephon Diggs get involved in Sunday's game, things are going to get very odd and interesting. I have a feeling Chat GPT is stuck in a certain time in 2024, probably August at the latest. If you could only pick one stat line, what do you think will be the number one factor for the game? Holding Josh Allen to very few rushing yards, scrambling yards, 100%. 3 years. It is 3 years. I don't know anything else outside of that, but the expectation is a 3-year deal for Carroll. I mean, that would be beyond Chat GPT for sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is going to be a big game for the coaches and the players, 100%. And, you know, the install is over with. It's in. Tomorrow's going to be a walkthrough for both teams. And, you know, you put in the last piece of the puzzle for your preparation. So you just got to hope that everything goes well in terms of execution on Sunday. Yeah, I suppose. And again, at his age, 73 years old, how long is he going to be there? Realistically, who knows? But I think you're onto something there, Kevin. So hopefully he can coach up his coaching staff that he's going to build there in Vegas and try to get something going. Because, I mean, listen, the Raiders, Mark Davis isn't stupid. Why did he go to Vegas of all places? Because he knows that win or lose, he is always going to win. I mean, in Vegas, you're always going to have people that will visit and want to go for the visiting team. I mean, you saw it this year at Arrowhead. I said Arrowhead, Allegiant. There are more Chiefs fans than Raiders fans there this year. Last year, it was about 50-50. This year, I would say it was 60-40 in favor of Kansas City. And by the way, I love when Raiders fans are like, oh, you're giving us your money. I mean, are you really flexing your owner's money? Owners already have a lot of money anyway. I mean, the money does not go to the Raiders salary cap. It goes to the owner. And they can use that money to improve anything they want to improve in the stadium, which probably wouldn't be too much because it's still fairly brand new. But that money doesn't go to improving the team, because if that's how it worked, the Raiders would have been winning by now. Because the Raiders, I mean, they have probably more sellouts than any team out there with all their home games, because with the exception of maybe, you know, the times when you have two bad teams going head to head in Allegiant Stadium, don't the Raiders make a lot of money from ticket sales because they get a lot of visiting fans every time? And you tell me, though. No, that is CJ Graham. And listen, I'm bad at this, kind of like the Star Wars movies. Like, I can't remember the names of each Star Wars movie. I just call them episode 1, 2, 3, and so on. That is from, I want to say 6. I think that's Jason Lives. But again, don't hold me. Whichever one CJ Graham was in. I know. I wanted to. Here's the thing, guys. Like, real talk. Let's get away from the Chiefs. I really would love to have a dog. I really would. Never had a pet in my life. I mean, as kids, like, we would have fish. Here's my thing. I am just so busy with everything I do. Like, I mean, I have a lot on my plate. Obviously, you guys see the Chief stuff that I do and the NFL content I do, and a couple other things here and there on social media. But man, I'll tell you now, and I'll pull back the curtains a little bit. I do not have a lot of free time. I mean, if I did, I'm telling you guys right now, once football season is over, I know a lot of people are like, thank God, or a lot of people are like mad that the football season's over because they miss it. Me, I'm like, thank goodness, because I can kind of relax on the weekends a little bit because I do dedicate Saturdays and Sundays to a lot of football. But whenever it's the off season, I'm knocking off movies and TV shows off my list because I don't get a chance to do much of that during the season. Um, anyway, my point is I'm really super busy with everything I've got going on. If I were to get a dog, I would be such a terrible dog owner. I would. Um, so that's the thing. It's like if you're going to have a dog or a kid, you have to make a lot of time for it. You can't just have a dog, like especially animals. I mean, animals are not easy to take care of sometimes, but I mean, if I'm gonna have a dog, I really would have to commit myself to taking care of it and being a good dog dad and all that stuff, which I cannot, unfortunately, put in the time for. I want to, but I just don't have that right now. So, because I've asked you guys before, like, what's better, adopting or what is the best way? But I haven't really gotten around that yet. That puppy needs a Mahomes jersey. He had a Chiefs jersey on. I just think it's funny that people get. I remember going into Super Bowl 55, which the Chiefs got their asses kicked in that one. There was like a hippopotamus. They had a Buccaneers a watermelon and a Chiefs watermelon. The logos were in front of the watermelon, and they just let the hippopotamus pick the watermelon, and he picked the Chiefs one. Dude, I posted that, and there were like Bucs fans who were like, "Fuck that hippopotamus!" Like, dude, it's an animal. Like, calm down. It's not that deep. You are way in your feelings if you let things like this work you up. You liked my bingo card with Carroll? Yes. They just kind of threw me on there. I did not have a chance to review the board because I was about to write down Josh Allen interception. I'm like, oh, it's on there. I guess I'll just put Josh Allen fumbles. The league isn't against us. Goodell is. You could tell he hated coming here for the draft. He genuinely cannot stand to not have people kiss his. I mean, that's everywhere, though, Timothy. I mean, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, Timothy, because I know you are sometimes, but I mean, I know he has a really good relationship with Clark Hunt. Oh, go ahead, people. Clip that part of this live stream and yeah, run with that, I guess. But no, I mean, he does. There are some other owners he's got a good working relationship with. I don't think he gets booed everywhere he goes, doesn't he? When was he ever cheered? Maybe the first draft after the pandemic, maybe, but I don't know. Or was he even cheered then? I don't think he was. Yeah, just two. Two are open. The Cowboys and the Saints. They're about the same age. I think Andy Reid's 1 year older, so I don't know. I mean, maybe Andy Reid steps away sooner than expected. Maybe Spags takes over. I would hope it's either Spags or Bieniemy. I really do. Detroit had their coaches hired. They destroyed their So their offensive and defensive coordinators are now head coaches. And then wasn't there a defensive line coach that's now the defensive coordinator of the Patriots? Listen, the Patriots have had a lot of their assistants poached. So, how does a team like Kansas City or Detroit that's done a good job with their coaching staffs, how do they learn from that? The Chiefs haven't lost a lot of assistants. I mean, position coaches, yeah, but nothing really beyond that. I mean, the biggest one was really from Bieniemy to Nagy. That was it. And that's because Bieniemy kind of felt the need that he has to prove himself away from Mahomes and Reid, which is unfortunate, but that's what he had to do. And unfortunately, it hasn't really gone his way. Let us have the three-peat and then we'll chill. Yeah. Come on. You want us to not win? Give us a three-peat and we'll stop winning. If that happens some way, like the 2026 season just needs to be a best of 7 series. The Chiefs versus the 31 other teams combined. Like, don't even have a 32 teams type of season. Don't even do that. If the Chiefs four-peat somehow, like, Donald Trump needs to create an executive order or sign an executive order where it's the Chiefs versus the 31 other teams and their best players together at a best of 7 series. And if the Chiefs win that one, then they are given the 5-peat, whatever it would be called at that point. We didn't really have a lot of veterans with Herm Edwards, did we? It just felt like the longer Herm Edwards was in Kansas City, the more veterans left. I mean, I wouldn't say that, Bob. I think as long as you have Brett Veach and Patrick Mahomes, I think you'll be fine. I mean, look at the Patriots. A lot of people wanted to always figure out, was it Brady or Belichick? A lot of people said Belichick, but then Brady leaves and the Patriots struggled quite a bit. They had one good season with Mac Jones his rookie year, but that was it. So I think in general, like, I think the Patriots proved that as long as you have the quarterback, you'll be fine. I mean, these assistants who are like, if Andy retires and you want to hire from within, that coach will have learned a lot from Andy Reid to be able to do what needs to be done to help the franchise move forward. I think as long as you have Brett Veach and Patrick Mahomes, I think you'll be fine for a long time. I really do. How many players' contracts are up after this year? Off the top of my head, I'm just going on offense here, and I'm just going with the key players. I mean, Carson Wentz, obviously, but no one cares. Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, I believe P. Ryan. So you are not going to have, I mean, all of your running backs, I believe, are set to be free agents if you don't keep them. Offensive line, really just Trey Smith and DJ Humphries. Who else? Oh, the wide receiver position, Juju, Hollywood, Hopkins. You got a lot of receivers there. On the defensive side, yeah, Bolton, I see your comment, Bob. Bolton's a huge one. Who else on defense? Justin Reed. There's got to be another one. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but I know there's someone else on defense. Bolton, Reed. I mean, I think some of the guys from that 2022 class, like Jalen Watson and Josh Williams, I think those guys are set to be free agents also, if they're not kept. So this is going to be, listen, Brett Veach has always figured it out, though. So we'll see what they want to do. They play on Sunday. Yeah, championship Sunday, conference title games, those are all on Sunday. I mean, with Dave Toub, we'll see what he does. Special teams has been. People don't realize like how great of a special teams coordinator Dave Toub is. That's the same guy who coached Devin Hester in Chicago. Like, that guy knows who's good and who's not on his special teams unit. And I think this has been a great year for him and his unit and things that. Why does Dave Toub not get a lot of head coaching interest? He had some early in Andy Reid's time in KC. Don't forget the 4th and 1 run against Pacheco. He didn't make it. Yeah. And I also felt like, I mean, you're right, Jordan. It was 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. I thought the formation was bad. And I also felt like the personnel was not the right one because they attempted another 3rd and I can't remember if it was 3rd and 1. Oh, by the way, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that 4th down against the Texans. Okay, that was a failed 4th down. I forgot about that. Thank you. Because I mentioned that one before. I should have known that. But Yeah. I guess what I was trying to go with is you got to have Hunt in those situations, not Pacheco. Hand off to Worthy and he throws it. I'm a little skeptical of stuff like that because they tried that with Travis Kelce a while back. That was when a lot of people were complaining about Alex Smith. I mean, it was a nice throw, but it was intercepted. Tyreek Hill did one of those against the Broncos once, and that was intercepted. When the Chiefs do that kind of thing, it doesn't work well. I think the only time it's ever worked was with Dontari Poe, of all people. They're playing last year on football, the divisional round. Nice. That was a hell of a game. Last time the Chiefs played the Bills, Noah Gray had 2 touchdowns. Yep, he did. Yeah, I think you have to run the corn dog plays in this one because Philadelphia is going to be ready for it. Unless you have a completely different variation of it that will completely throw off the Eagles. With a little mustard and ketchup. Corn dog with mustard and ketchup this time. Last time it was Tom and Jerry corn dog, and this time it's going to be mustard and ketchup corn dog. Yeah, I like it. Stephon Diggs could watch the confetti fall again. That's a good comment. Oh, that's a comment of the night. That was funny. That was a good one, John. At first glance, I thought we were talking about Taylor Swift. When the name Taylor is brought up with the Chiefs, there's a certain connection people make, and it's usually not Jawan. But no, you're right, Corey. No, I agree. Third down was not very good last week. That's a concern of mine coming into this week. They've been great at it all year long. Dog rescue is the best. Adopt, don't shop. Rescue. Yeah, a lot of you guys are saying that. Oh, well, that's awesome. And you're saying you wrote I was sick. So I think that indicates that this is in the past for you. So hopefully that's correct. And if so, air horns for that also. Usually it's a bell ring for that kind of moment, but for now we only have an air horn. Wanell, I hope I said your name right. Please tell me KC will win. Wanell, KC will win. There, I told you that. You told me to tell you, and you said please, and I did. So there you go. I mean, the Chiefs have had worse. I thought they drafted well in the Herm Edwards era. I mean, Herm was once a scout. It's just the plan never worked. And I mean, look, I like the players they draft. I really, really do. The coaching staff they just weren't the right coaching staff. They just weren't. And we've had players from that era on this podcast before kind of infer that. I don't think they want to say it word for word, but they have. I mean, I'll just put it that way. I mean, look, they had Jamal Charles, Brandon Flowers, Glenn Dorsey. I thought Glenn Dorsey actually played well under Rack in the 3-4 scheme. Just unfortunate he never lived up like a number 5 overall pick, defensive player. Remember, it wasn't Todd McShay. Who was the other guy on ESPN? He said best defensive player in 15 years. My dad took me to the Chiefs draft watch party that day, and everyone heard the ESPN guy say that. People were like, hell yeah, sweet. Except it really wasn't. Josh Allen didn't even play a great last game. He didn't throw a passing touchdown, only 2 rushing touchdowns. One was a tush push. Yeah. And he got stuffed on the when he was trying to go for a third one. So real fans know next year will be different. There's going to be players that can't keep. Yeah. No, you're right. Now, I'll put this out there right now. I know Tyreek Hill's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, has diffused the narrative about Tyreek Hill, but you guys all heard Tyreek Hill after the game against the Jets to end their season. Tyreek Hill was not happy. Like, he made it very clear he was not happy. Excuse me. And Drew Rosenhaus went on McAfee's show and was like, oh, they're okay. Everything's fine. It was just heat of the moment. Okay, but we kind of heard a similar thing where the Raiders tried everything they could to make it clear that Davante Adams was not really unhappy when he, in reality, was unhappy. My whole point is, like, look at Tyreek Hill. That dude took the money and ran, okay? And good on him. I mean, he's making a lot of money right now. And he's got a Super Bowl ring. But he doesn't look happy. He does not look happy. I don't care what the Dolphins and and Tyreek Hill talked about after the season. Tyreek Hill did not look happy. And if the Dolphins play like that to start the 2025 season, that anger is going to only grow. My point is this, like Davante Adams, he also took the money and ran with the Raiders. Then he went to reunite with his buddy in the Jets, and that didn't work out. I think if you're a free agent, you got to realize, okay, being the highest paid player at this position is great, but you want to win too, right? I mean, if you're making $10 million when you could have made $7 million playing somewhere else, could that not make you happy? I mean, $3 million is a lot, don't get me wrong, but when you're already making $7 million, is that not good enough? Would you rather lose with $3 extra million more? I don't know. I just feel like the Tyreek Hill thing has really opened up a lot of people. Because Stephen A. Smith, remember when Marquez Valdes-Scantling dropped that touchdown? Stephen A. Smith, the next morning, was like, you should have paid Tyreek Hill. And then what does Stephen A. Smith say 14 months later? He says, oh, hey, Tyreek, life is different without Tyreek Hill. Wait a minute. You were beating a whole different drum 14 months ago. And now you're saying Tyreek Hill should have stayed? Because, to say the Chiefs should have paid Tyreek Hill and to say Tyreek Hill should have stayed are two different statements there. To infer that the Chiefs should have paid Tyreek is to infer that they should have given him the money he was asking for. To say that Tyreek Hill should have stayed with the Chiefs is suggesting that he should have been willing to take a pay cut to stay in Kansas City. I'm just pointing that out there. Like, again, the Dolphins gave up a shit ton of picks for Tyreek Hill. What have they done with that? They haven't done jack shit. They're 0-2 in the playoffs. One of them to the team that got all those draft picks for Tyreek Hill. What have the Chiefs done? They've won the Super Bowl every year without Tyreek Hill. And so far this year, which, is to be determined. But aren't the Chiefs in the Final Four without him again? Like, the Chiefs are doing just fine without Tyreek Hill. Could the offense be better? Sure, absolutely. I think it was supposed to be much better this year, but injuries had a different plan. So we'll see, maybe we'll see next year with a healthier roster. I don't know. Also depends on who they bring back. Yes, Omenihu is a free agent. Thank you, Chris. I mean, you guys have that list. I saw someone comment with the link, but I don't have that list in front of me. So Omenihu is a guy that's a free agent. You're right. I knew that I was forgetting another name on there, an important name. Yeah, Sky Moore is from that 2022 class. You're right. And that's still considered a very good draft class for the Chiefs. I still never forgave Todd Haley for wanting to get rid of Jared Allen. Oh, no, that was before Todd Haley. Jared Allen, that was a Carl Peterson issue. And that was because Carl Peterson was a little nervous because Allen already had 2 DUIs. That's what that was all about. That had nothing. That was before Todd Haley. Yeah. I hated seeing Allen go. I really did. That sucked. He was one of my favorite players. And he was just like, I mean, he was still growing too. And after that 2-game suspension, he led the NFL in sacks. Yes, Mel Kiper. Thank you. Yeah. Man, I remember the Chiefs were 1 pick away from Brady Quinn. 1 pick away. And he ended up coming to Kansas City, oddly enough. I mean, look, he has a lot of off-the-field drama with baby mamas and He supposedly, he's always involved with something. There's always something going on with Tyreek. And listen, facts need to come out before anyone makes a judgment, but the Chiefs already went through that with Tyreek once before in a very scary situation with the child abuse allegations. I mean, the recorded audio that came out really saved his ass, I would say. But I don't know. I think Kansas City just needs to stay away from Tyreek. I mean, look, if Tyreek Hill was still a Chief, I think the offense would be great. Defense would probably still have some question marks and concerns. I do think the Tyreek Hill trade really helped allow the Chiefs defense to be much better, for sure. I don't think that's happening. Yeah, he's certainly playing at that level. I think Carl Loftus is slowly getting better and better. He really is. I think he'll be a top 10 edge rusher in 2025. So I'm excited to see what he does with his growth. No, he wasn't. Because Allen got traded in the 2007 offseason. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. No, hold on. I have that mixed up. 07 was Allen's last year. He led the NFL in sacks that year. I remember that now because that was the first year I did the podcast. In 08, the offseason, that is when they traded Allen. And they got a bunch of draft picks. They got 2 firsts and they got a first and 2 thirds. So the Chiefs had 2 first-round picks, and that allowed them to be very flexible. They got who'd they get? They got Glenn Dorsey. I thought they would have gotten Jeff Otah, but they got Brandon Albert later on in the draft. They traded up 2 spots to get him. And then in the later, they got Brandon Flowers in the second round. The third round is where things got crazy, where they got Jamal Charles, Brad Cottam. In the fourth round, they got Will Franklin. So they got some really good players in the second and third rounds of the draft. I mean, Brandon Flowers, Jamal Charles, those guys ended up being some of the very, very few bright spots during, those down years for Kansas City from 07 to 2012. But yeah, 1 year after Jared Allen got traded, that was when the coaching staff got fired and Carl Peterson resigned. So that was quite a time. That was quite a time. I was on a flight with Carl Peterson last year. I actually did not recognize him at first, but then I saw like the NFL. He had some sort of NFL hat on. I can't remember if it was NFLPA or another football related hat, but yeah, he was on the same flight as me coming back from Vegas. And I remember that was a weird day because Southwest kept delaying the flight. It's weird. Southwest would send 8 notifications in the span of 2 minutes telling me the flight was canceled and then back on. Or I'm sorry, not canceled, delayed and then back on, delayed, back on. It ended up being a 5-6 hour delay. I got home like really late that day. I was actually hoping to be home that day to do a podcast, but did not happen the way I wanted it to. There will never be another Jamal Charles or Dante Hall. Dante Hall, man, that player, he was something else. He really was. He's the reason I got hooked into the Chiefs and the NFL. I mean, what he did just in clutch situations, you're just not going to see from a kick returner again. Like, he was literally in the MVP conversation at one point. Didn't get a vote, but his name was out there. Certainly was out there. All right, I am caught up on the comments. Almost an hour and a half long for this episode of the Red Friday Live Chat. Thank you guys so much. These have been a lot of fun to do this season. The podcast, the Chiefs Zone, the Red Friday Live Chat, all of that, they've been awesome this year. So thank you guys for all of that. Reminder, Sunday, 10 a.m., pregame live chat. The biggest pregame live chat of the year. Join me for that. And then once the game goes to halftime, as soon as that halftime interview on CBS is over, we are going to go live. We'll do our short halftime live stream after the game. We are going to do the Chiefs Zone podcast live. That'll be our post-game podcast. We'll have the link for you guys to click so you guys can call in. All you have to do is turn on your video, your audio, put in your name, and you guys will be able to call in. We can talk about the game afterwards, hopefully recapping an AFC championship win for Kansas City and going to their third straight Super Bowl. So hopefully we can do that. But regardless of the outcome of the game, we will be doing the Chiefs Zone podcast live afterwards. So make sure you guys join me for that. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all once again for joining me on tonight's episode of the Red Friday Live Chat. I will talk to you all on Sunday. Enjoy. Have a great weekend.